Yeah, thank you everybody for coming out to the first ISSessions meeting with the brand new exec team. My name is Jack. You might remember me from last year as the producer for ISSessions, but this year I'll be taking on the role as president. And to start off this new year of ISSessions, we got, I think, a great agenda scheduled for tonight. We're going to be starting off a little bit differently. Instead of the usual news roundup, we'll be trying to get you guys involved a bit. We're doing a discussion segment. After that, we're bringing back a fan favorite, ISS Jeopardy. We'll go into a short break. Once we come back, we'll be joined by the previous CTF team, and they'll be taking us into a deeper look into the making of MonkeyCTF from last year, as well as a walkthrough on some of the challenges. For all of that, though, a president is only as good as the team around them. So let's take a look at the team that will be working this year at ISSessions. Joining me on the support team, we'll have Christian, the former event manager and current vice president. We'll also be working with Mason. He's taken over the responsibility of community manager and producer. In fact, he's streaming this right now. Thank you, Mason. Taking a look at the content team, they'll be working on our regular meetings. Jackson taking a victory lap, this time as the event manager. Then we have Jackson, not to be confused with Jackson. He'll be a content dev along with Jess, Neryl, Patrick, Singh, and Tommy. And then our CTF team, who's going to be working hard behind the scenes to bring you another amazing CTF. We got Sean as our CTF coordinator. We got Chris as the challenge dev lead. Working with Chris, our challenge devs, we got Blake, Edward, Kyle, Mark, Reed, Shaquille, and of course, what would a CTF be without our CTF infrastructure developer? We got Vlad for that. So this is the team which will be working together to make this year at ISSessions another one that is both fun, informative, and some other adjective. Now, without further ado, let's get into tonight's meeting. And let's get started with the discussion segment. So Jackson, whenever you're ready, I invite you to take it away. And I'll start sharing the PowerPoint.
Awesome. So one of the things we wanted to do this year with ISSessions, kind of different from last year, is we wanted to basically try to get a bit more interaction, because you guys are all coming from work, school, whatever, and where you're getting a lot of information. And we don't want it to be just that you come in and you get to see another PowerPoint, right? And you just learn another thing for the whole time. We want something where you guys can come in, discuss, learn, talk, and have some fun. So we're going to try to do more of these discussions. So in the past, we did our news segment at the start, and this is going to kind of, we're kind of experimenting with this to try to see if this can be a good alternative to have some more engagement. So now I'm going to kind of explain what we're going to do. So next slide. So how it works is our amazing content team has prepared a bunch of news stories that have a prompt to go with them. So an article or a certain topic will be summarized by one of our amazing content members, and then we will feature a prompt. And then the audience will have the opportunity to respond to our prompt with this specific format that I'm going to give in just like the next slide. And then back one, not, I said, so yeah, the executive team will look for those who want to discuss a specific point and invite them to elaborate further on the mic. Okay, now next slide, for real this time. So our format, we have the amazing bot made by our amazing Vice President Christian last year. So you're going to, whenever you get a prompt, you're going to type in the chat yay or nay with an exclamation mark on the end. It is now actually fully case insensitive, so it can be uppercase or lowercase. I think maybe a combination, but don't quote me on that. So if you do this, we will see that you agree or disagree with the prompt. And if you put a plus sign at the end of the sentence, that means you would like to hop on your mic and elaborate a little further. We want to try to encourage people to do this just so we can kind of get a bit more of a lively discussion. And then just wait, and one of our executives will see you and call you out to come on mic and talk. So I'm just going to give a little example. So the prompt could be my Discord username is too long. So not Jackson, but the one underneath that. And so yay, agreeing with that. No name should be that long. And nay, disagreeing with that. Discord lets you have 32 letters. You may as well use all of them. And then there's a little plus at the end because they want to talk about that more. And yeah, so you can also use the Discord reply feature to kind of keep a discussion going or reply to a specific point. Okay, next slide. So now we're going to start, and our amazing content team is going to give you some news stories and prompts.
Thanks, Jackson. Hey everyone, my name is Neryl, and other Jackson, and I will be presenting the first story tonight. This story comes from the New York Times based on an investigation that came out earlier this year. So in 2019, the FBI bought Pegasus. This is software that is widely believed to be the world's most powerful spyware. It's capable of accessing phones without users' permission and breaking the encryption of communications in Android smartphones and iPhones. Pegasus was created and sold by the Israeli private cyber arms company, the NSO Group. The FBI purchased Pegasus and tested it for domestic surveillance before ultimately deciding against using it in 2021. The many uses for such a powerful tool are morally ambiguous. In the past, Pegasus was used to track the activity of drug cartels and terrorists. However, it has also been used to suppress human rights activists and journalists, promoting instability and supporting authoritarian regimes in other countries. So Jackson will give some examples of how Pegasus was used in the past.
Thank you, Neryl. Hello, everyone. I am the other Jackson, and as mentioned by Neryl, one of the many prominent things Pegasus was used for was the capture of drug lord El Chapo. The spyware was used to target El Chapo's high-ranking officers, and by this process, the Mexican government was able to round up enough evidence to obtain. On contrary, Pegasus was also used to target journalists and dissidents within Mexico. Saudi Arabia was notorious for abusing Pegasus as they targeted women's rights activists. In more recent times, Pegasus were used against the US Embassy employees in Africa. As many as 11 people were hacked. All of them were using iPhones. Once the device was hacked, the hackers would then extract sound and video recordings, encrypted communication, photos, contacts, location data, and text messages. In the UAE, Pegasus was used to hack the phones of an outspoken critic of the government, Ahmed Mansour. Ahmed's geolocation was monitored, 140,000 stolen out of his account, was fired from his job, and was attacked by a group of people out of nowhere. Next slide, please. Controversially, the Prime Minister of Israel did not order Pegasus system to be cut off to the far-right leaders in countries such as Poland, Hungary, and India, even though they were using it in a malicious way. Finally, American companies tried to build their own version of Pegasus that used a zero-click technology. Some of you might be wondering, what is zero-click? So zero-click allows a hacker to break into a phone or a computer, even if its users does not open a malicious link or attachment. However, with no definitive success. Now I'll pass it back to Neryl.
Thanks, Jackson. So this leads us to the question. Do you think private companies have a moral obligation to be selective on who they sell their products to? So in this case, do you think the NSO Group has a moral obligation to refrain from selling powerful spyware like Pegasus to bad actors?
Yeah, so now is the time where you'll come on and give your yay, nay, and the reasons why you disagree or agree. Hopefully we can get some discussion going. Everyone feel free to give an opinion. Okay, Jack says yay. What's your reason behind that, Jack? Oh, I might have forgot to mention this before, but try to say yay and then a little sentence explaining your reasoning, your point.
Very helpful,
Okay.
Jack. Thank you.
Yeah. Russell, I see you spoke up. Do you have a thought on this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, the ones at the top probably are not adhering to that, which is why they're raking in billions a year. But in an ideal world, they would adhere, make sure it's not used for ill.
Yeah. So Pablo gives us a yay. There should be a standard to human morals. Yes, but unfortunately, sometimes business people, especially the rich ones, do not have those.
I hate rich people.
Yeah. Does anyone else have a point they want to say about this? My one thing I find interesting with this is how do they select this? Because like, if a company comes to you and say we're gonna pay you $1 million for this, you could decide by coin flip. Exactly, Nash. It'd be hard to determine who is morally wrong. Sometimes you need to wait to see, and sometimes it's through abusing these softwares that you realize that they're morally wrong. But then they've already bought it. And yeah, Russell, a coin flip could work, but I feel like there's some issues with that.
Nah, probably not. Probably the best way.
If you say so.
Yep. Very unbiased. Therefore, it's right.
Jem brings up a good point. Yay, certainly they do. With the level of sophistication, I can't talk today. Sophistication some of these tools are reaching, it's almost comparable to weapons manufacturers selling arms to whoever. Yes. Now, if the question was, do private companies act on these moral obligations, then my answer is different law. Yeah. Yeah. So, of course, you can't always trust companies to be moral. Ethics can be very subjective. Like, for example, if the country's in a state of civil war, let's say, obviously this is a very up in the air thing, but that could definitely change the tide of who could win the war, depending on who gets a certain technology. So these kind of things could be comparable to weapons in that case. Is anyone typing? I don't see. Yeah, I see two people typing. I'll wait. Kurt says, I'd say yes, but grassroots morality from companies isn't the best solution. Government needs to step in at some point. Funny you say that. Just wait like one prompt. Okay, I see a few people typing. So, yay, but to a certain degree. Oh, Jack didn't set up the bot for this one. That's fine. I'm pretty sure we don't really need to see the graph. It's just going to be a circle. It's going to be a whole pie. So Chris said, yay to a certain degree. If it's a matter of safety and security, especially on a national level, the sale should be managed, but it's hard to draw the line on where regulation should step in. Yeah, it's definitely a hard question. I don't think we're going to figure it out tonight. I know we're an amazing, smart group of information security professionals, but this is a bit of a high issue to fix. So I don't see anyone else typing. I think we're safe to move on to our next prompt. So take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jess, and the second article that Patrick and I have for you today is Data Collection Regardless of Submission, that was written on Ars Technica. So, a study was conducted by European researchers that proves that many websites collect your data regardless of form submission. So, for example, if you're on a website and you're going shopping, and you enter your details, and you decide last minute that you don't want to buy that product, your information still gets sent anyways for marketing and data analytics purposes. So the behavior on the websites is deemed similar to keyloggers in the sense that they track your events. And the study also revealed that users are tracked more efficiently across websites and browsing sessions, so from website to website. When you give out your email address, even before submission, it is used as your identifier. Next slide.
User behavior enables businesses to identify new market interest in their products or services. Your behavior indicates to companies ideas on how to best communicate with you. Metapixel and TikTok Pixel, which is a JavaScript code, which allows advertisers to track site activity and attributes ads across websites, collect hash personal identifiers from web forms, regardless of the user's intent. Move on to the next slide.
So I'm going to link the study over here in the chat in case you guys are interested. There's also video demonstrations on the methodology. It's a really interesting read. And the prompt for this article is, can collection of users' personal data ever be justified?
So just like before, feel free to go on your yay, nay buttons. Do you think that the collection of the user's personal data can be justified? Jem gives us a nay, that is all. Okay, we got a... You have something to hide, Jem? Okay, so some interesting points. So Russell says, when lives are at risk, could be an exception. Which, yeah, I think that's fair, but it's kind of hard to tell when lives are going to be at risk. How are you going to know that something's going to happen that you would need surveillance to find out? Nash gives us another yay. However, they should be aware that it's being collected and where it will be used. Yeah, that's a good point. Unfortunately, a lot of the time it is in a terms of service, and terms of service are notorious for not being read. And Jem says, do I need to have something to hide to tell you that you don't need a key to enter my house? Yeah, that's fair. I was joking. You're right. If the user themselves has a reason to approve the collection of their own data. Yeah, so I think a big point of this is there should be an option to opt out. Or an option to say, no, I don't want you to collect my data. We got another nay, because it usually leads to it being sold. If I want people to buy my personal data, I'd like to see that money. That'd be interesting. I wonder if people would feel differently about it if they said, okay, if they said like, okay, we'll sell your data, but you get like part of the profit. Like you get like a few dollars a week or something. I wonder if people would feel differently about it then. We got a yay maybe, but it should be a case where there's a reason to, like a warrant, not mass collection. So kind of like if they have reason to believe you've committed crimes, then they might be able to find stuff from your computer or your phone or whatever, but like not just randomly like sifting through everyone's data. And then nay, the world revolves around personal data too much. That's fair. And yeah, the default should probably be no collection. Sean, I'm just not sure what that number is. Did you mean to post that? Oh, he deleted it. Okay, probably he didn't mean to. So for anyone interested, what is considered personal data is determined by privacy laws in the area. For example, the EU falls under the GDPR and Canada the PIPEDA. So yeah, a lot of it comes down to the laws. Of course, in the EU, it might be a lot different than here. I know, for example, the EU was, I think we did this as a news story, was suing a bunch of companies. I think it was Apple and Facebook, where they were basically saying, because for cookies, where it said, like, press, do you accept cookies? There was no decline cookies button. Like, you had to go into, like, there was like a little settings thing. You had to click on settings and you had to go through it. Like, it wasn't obvious. It wasn't obvious that it would be. I think that's a good point, Nash, because if it's like a widely accepted fact that no one reads the terms of services, there should probably be regulations in that. But I feel like the companies have an easy defense of, we put it out there that you could read it and everyone accepts it. But then again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know all the ways you could argue it for or against. Okay, I don't see anyone typing. Maybe I'll give it like 3 seconds, and if I see someone start typing, we'll wait. But if not, we'll move on to our last prompt of the night. And then we're starting our next thing. Okay, I don't see anyone typing, so we're going to move on to the next prompt. So take it away.
All right, hey guys, my name's Tommy, and me and Singh are bringing you guys the next prompt. So this news piece is quite relevant right now because of what's going on in the southern states and Texas with abortion laws. So basically, data broker firms, in this case SafeGraph, they're selling location data on people that visit clinics offering abortions. This data is often obtained from SDKs, which is software development kits from various phone apps without the user actually knowing. And according to the SafeGraph website, their data aims to find out how often people visit, how long they stay, where they came from, where else they go, and more. And to me, this is a very scary statement. They just want to know absolutely everything about these people, unbeknownst to them, and it could be potentially used as a weapon in the hands, in this case, in anti-choice radicals. Next slide.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, everyone. I'm Singh. And our prompt today is basically tied into the theme of this whole discussion. Does the government have a responsibility to regulate the use of location data among private companies like these? In other words, could or should this be used by authorities as a form of quote-unquote lawful surveillance?
Okay, yeah. So everybody, get on your buzzers. Give your opinions. We want to see them. Okay, we got a yay. Hashir, do you have a reasoning for that? But they're 30 years behind. Yes, I'm sure that would help them prevent crimes and things like that if they only find out about it 30 years later. It's like, yeah, the guy died like 10 years ago, but we just found out that he committed a crime. And as always, feel free to add a plus to the end of your answer and turn on your mic and talk a little bit. I always find it easier to say something with my own voice than just writing it down on Discord. So if you feel like it, add a little plus. We got a few people typing, so I will wait.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Oh, I don't think Hashir meant to say that. Okay, just waiting on the people typing. I think for a lot of people, once the government gets these powers, it can be a little different. A lot of people don't like the government. So Mason gives us a yay, but I think it needs to be reasonable, like for violent crimes or similar crimes. I think that makes sense. Like, maybe they shouldn't be sifting through my stuff every single day. just seeing the texts I send to my mom or the emails I send. Yeah, that's a good question, Shashir. Will the private companies be using it for that reason? And if so, should there kind of be an extra step, if not just the government using this, but the government regulating other people using this, like other companies? So we got a nay from Mo. Feel free to give a reasoning if you want to. Mason says, not because someone downloaded Mario Party illegally. Yeah, no, definitely not. I'm sure no one has done that. You might not want Nintendo to have that data. Okay, we got a few people typing. Nintendo would drone strike you if they could. I don't doubt that as a company. Yay, I think it should only be illegal Mario Party downloads, though. Definitely. That is the biggest problem facing the world today. Mario Party downloads, yes, illegal ones. Indeed. That is what the government should be putting money towards. Okay. Do we have anyone else typing? Anyone else want to say anything? This is our last prompt, so if you want to say something, make sure you do. Okay, we got one typing. Let's make it two. Two people typing. Do I got two? Only one. Okay. Darn. Oh, we got two. Can I get a three? Can I get three? Can I get three people? I got three people. Several people typing. Okay, that's just gibberish. Yay, but I worry large companies will practice their influence on government policy. Of course, that is a big trouble in a lot of, I'd say most countries, is lobbying, because these companies have a lot of money, and money can be used to influence people. So I feel like it could be the kind of thing that if the government does try to do this, big companies could kind of slow it down, stop it, delay it, whatever. Neryl said, yay, I think it should be protected like personal data, like Jess mentioned, under policies like PIP, EDA. Yeah, for sure. These things need to be protected. Okay. So it's now 7:30 and I don't see anyone typing, so I believe we are going to move on to our next. So that one was, the first one was a little cut and dry, 100% agreeance. But the next two were a little more up in the air, a little more discussion about it. So that's good. So now we are going to be moving on to our Jeopardy segment, which I believe Jack is going to stream in like a minute.
Thank you, content team, for putting together that segment, and thank you to all our members. I mean it when I say it. We cannot do that segment without you guys. And along the lines of segments we can't do without you, let's just cut right into the chase. Let's get right into ISS Jeopardy.
Yeah, so on the stream now will be our back by popular demand from last year, Jeopardy. And once again, I will be your Alex Trebek impersonator, even though I have never watched Jeopardy, and I will be the host. So it's pretty similar to Jeopardy, but we're just going to be doing a little bit different because it's on Discord. So on to the next slide, I'm going to explain what we're going to do. So it's a little bit different than Jeopardy because we have 7 categories instead of 6, but each still have 5 questions with varying difficulty and point value. So each question has a point value measured in dollars. As a disclaimer, these dollars, there's no cash prize. Your cash prize, your score does not entitle you to any money, as a disclaimer. And the first question will be chosen by the host, which I guess that's me. And then after that, the person who answered the previous question correctly will choose the next prompt. So if you get a question correct, you get to choose the next one. So this is the part where it could get a little tricky. So a buzzer will be available by sending the command !buzz only in our stream questions chat. And after the first person buzzes, there'll be a little message that says, okay, they rung the buzzer. And then there's a 5-second grace period for other people to join. Just because with Discord and the internet and streaming, like sometimes it'll be hard for people to buzz in and get it in real time. So then the order from among the people who buzz will be selected randomly. And we'll get a nice little tidy little list that'll show our order. And if the question is answered incorrectly, the next person on the list will be selected to answer the question. And if nobody gets it, I'll just choose the next one. So on to our next slide. Here is our amazing grid that our team worked hard on. So our categories this week are networking, coding, global surveillance, which is kind of based on a discussion, hacker pop culture, ISSessions, miscellaneous, and whistleblowers, which will go into next week's discussion. Okay, darn. So I guess I get to choose a question. Let's go something easy. Let's go 100 in miscellaneous. So now, buzz whenever you think you have the question. So Connor struck the buzzer. Anyone else who wants to buzz has like 10 seconds. Okay, it might be a little bit delayed, and I believe that is Mr. Davies Benz. Yes, I believe that's right. I think it's being a little slow. Yes, that is Mercedes-Benz. So just click on the title and that'll give us the answer. And so Connor has 100 points, and Connor gets to choose our next topic. Just make sure you restart the buzzer, Jack. I don't know if you did already. So Connor, do you have a specific question and category you want? You're the only one with points on the board. You're in first. ISSessions for 300. Okay, which one do you want? They're all 300. Okay, I get to choose? Okay. Let's go with the last one. So ISSessions is officially partnered with how many clubs? So the buzzer has been struck. We have 2 people on the board right now, 3 now. Anyone else? Do I got more? Running out of time. Okay, we got one more. Another. Anyone else? We're almost running out of time. And I think that's time. Okay, Mo, do you have an idea of how many clubs we are partnered with? 3. Again, my computer's kind of slow. I'm not opening it as fast as possible, but I believe that's correct. Give me like 5 seconds. Okay, that is actually incorrect. Sorry. So Abdul, what do you think is the answer? 2? 2 is also incorrect, unfortunately. Connor, do you have any idea? 4, and Connor is correct. We are partnered with 4 different cybersecurity clubs. And once again, Connor is the only person with points on the board. He has 400 points. Connor, do you have another one? Another ISSessions for 300. Okay, let's do the first one this time. This person created the ISSession server, going back far. Okay, we got a buzzer, bunch of people buzzing. Anyone else? Do I got any more buzzers? Running out of time. You're running out of time. I'm sure some of you guys can get this. Probably some hints in the server if you look around. Okay, we got Connor. I swear this isn't rigged. Connor, who created the ISSession server? Thraki is correct. So that means Connor has 700 points. I swear this isn't rigged. I don't know why this is happening. Okay, Connor, I guess you get to choose another one, but I feel like I already know what you're gonna guess. Okay, let's do the middle one this time. So, which restaurant is a traditional meetup after in-person ISSessions meetings? Okay, we got people buzzing in, buzzing in. People think they know it, apparently. Okay, if there's any more coming in, I feel like it's gonna end in like 2 seconds, so buzz in now. Okay. Okay, S-Band, what do you think the Monahans? You're right. We got another person on the board, finally. Another. Okay, you guys are really enjoying these ISSessions questions. Buzzcatflag.txt, great. Okay, let's do the second one then. So this one's a little easy. Who is our current president? I feel like maybe I should have done this question at a different meeting. Okay, I think it's about to be done. This might just be the luck of the draw, you know? Okay, I think it might be good to reset it. Jack. Show us the money. Okay, Mason, who is our current president? If you don't get this, you are fired. Okay, yes, you're correct. It is Jack B. Boylan. So Mason gets 300 points. Great. Mason, which category and point value do you want to choose? Maybe I feel like network for 200. I'm glad I'm sitting down. Okay. So this layer in the OSI model is responsible for transferring raw bit data. We have a bunch of people. Let me just open this one. So who is our first? So Abdul, which layer is responsible? The physical layer is correct. So that's 200 points for Abdul. And which question would you like to answer next? Or put on the board next? Coding for 200. We're getting some different categories now, even though there's one more ISSessions. So what does the Python function ABS brackets and do? Circle brackets. In case people aren't looking, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say most people are watching if they are participating. Okay, we got a bunch of people buzzing. Buzz in as quick as you want. Okay, Abdul, I swear this isn't, but I don't know why this is happening. So, okay, Abdul, what does that function do? It returns the absolute value of the number. That is correct. So up to 400 points, maybe you will pass Connor, who knows? He got a bunch of the ISSessions ones. Yeah. I was 90% sure it was random. It should be random. Okay, I was just checking. Coding for 500, okay. Coding for 500. So let n be the length of the string passed to this function. What is the runtime of this function as n grows? Think of big O. Back to the algorithms class if you've taken it, or just your brain if you haven't. Let's see. Okay, we got a bunch of people buzzing in, hopefully. Okay, we just had to reset it, I think. So everyone just buzz one more time, I believe. Darn, did the bot die? Did you? Okay, did we reset it? Shall we try the time-honored tradition of turning it off and turning it on again, Jack? Well, for this question, I guess we can just go by... Okay, now it looks like it's working. So everyone buzz, 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 buzz. Buzz like a bee. Think you know the answer? Buzz. So this is asking how it grows. So Mason, how does this function grow? What is the runtime of it as it grows? N squared, N squared. So that would mean quadratic, which is correct. So that is 500 points for Mason. Actually putting Mason in first place. So I'll just post our scoreboard for now. It's just my it's not fancy. It's just the one I've had in my little Discord writing thing. So Mason, what do you think our next question should be? All right, sessions for 300. Okay, there's only one more. So let's click that. So how old is ISSessions? Okay, everyone buzz in, even if you want to guess. Okay, Mo, 3 years is incorrect. So Patrick, you want to give it a go? 4 years. 4 years is also incorrect. Getting a little hotter though. Sean, what do you think? 7. 7 is close but no cigar. Connor, do you have any idea? 9. Oh my goodness, nobody got it. ISSessions is 8 years old. It turned 8 on March 28th. That's unfortunate, but you know what? That means I get to choose the question. So that's kind of fun. Let's go hacker pop culture for 400. So this video game sequel has Marcus Holloway hacking his way through the entire San Francisco Bay Area. Anyone have any ideas? Buzz in. Okay, Mo, what do you think it is? Watch Dogs 2 is correct. So that's for 400 points. So now, Mo, which questions, which category, and which points do you want next? Miscellaneous for 300. Oh, we're buzzing in already. What animal eats with its head upside down? Anyone know anything about animals? Specifically ones that eat with their head upside down? Hey, looks like the buzzer ran out. Just try to wait till we see the question to buzz, just so everyone has a chance, right? So Sean, what animal eats with its head upside down? The flamingo? Let me actually check this. I didn't check it. Sorry, just checking. I mean, I'm sure some humans do. The flamingo? Yeah, that's correct. I'm just slow to open it sometimes. So, Sean, which one do you want next? Which category and which questions? There's no more ISSessions one, so that's not the same thing. Whistleblowing for 500. So, Frances Haugen and Sophia Zhang are two whistleblowers that testified against this social media giant for its knowing failure to regulate misinformation and harmful content on its platform. Okay, we got a bunch of buzzing for this one. Apparently people might know it, or at least think they know it. So Connor, which one is it? I swear this isn't rigged. And that is right. That is Facebook. Connor puts himself in the lead once more. It is not ISSessions. We are not big enough to have had that many scandals yet. Yet, maybe. Hopefully never. So Connor, which category and which question? Miscellaneous for 500. Let's answer something random, I guess. Just wait to do the buzzer, please. Just so people have a chance. How many days are in a fortnight? Okay, we're waiting. I think I might have ran out of time. It's finicky. You have to be pretty quick. So, Chris, which animal, or no, I'm tired. How many days are in a fortnight? 14. That is correct, I believe, off the top of my head. And that is correct. So now that puts Chris on the board with 500 points. The answers are in it, but I am slow with clicking on the links, so sometimes I have to check. So Chris, oh, you're talking to the participants, okay. So Chris, which category / point value would you like to do next? Or have next, or whatever. We haven't had any from global surveillance, not many from pop culture, networking, or whistleblowers. Maybe one of those would be nice. Hacker pop culture for 500. Let's get it on the board. Richard Hendricks and his startup team often find themselves in a hacking war against this big tech company. I might have a little bit of a layer in it. You gotta know the show, you gotta know. Okay, we got people guessing. Buzz in while you have the time. Okay, Jess, which tech company? Huli, that is correct. Someone knows their Silicon Valley. So that is 500 points for Jess. 500 on the board. Okay, so Jess, which question would you like next? We'll probably do a few more, and then I believe we're going to finish for 8, or is it 7:55? Whistleblowers for 300. Okay. Let's get it on the board as soon as Jack resets. Julian Assange is the founder of this website that publishes news leaks and government secrets worldwide. Apparently, a bunch of people know this. Well, Julian Assange is pretty public. Like, he's known about, I guess. So I guess we're waiting for our results. Connor, I swear this isn't rigged, guys. I swear. Or at least if it's rigged, I'm not the one doing it. Okay, and it is WikiLeaks. Like, cross my heart, I promise this isn't rigged. I'll post a little score update. So Connor, which one would you like to do next? Surveillance for 500. We're trying to get all these 500 ones done, apparently. So global surveillance, multinational agreement for cooperation in signals intelligence between 5 Western countries. So what is it? in this case. So what is the multinational agreement for cooperation in signals intelligence between 5 Western countries? Anyone else want to buzz? Just give it a guess. Okay, I think we ran out of time. But if Connor doesn't get it, I'll let UK USA. I think that might be it. I don't remember. Let me just check 1 second. My computer is slow. And that is incorrect, actually. So, am I on the wrong one? Oh, that's the other name for it. Okay. The one under here is the Five Eyes. Darn, my bad. So that puts our friend Connor up to 2,000 points. I swear this is right, guys. I swear. Yeah, it is correct. I was just wrong. I just had the other name on my screen. So Connor, which one do you want? I feel like I might already know the answer though. Hacker Pulp Culture for 100. Okay, that's a surprise. So let's click on it. This 2021 movie has Ryan Reynolds as a sentient NPC character helping a game developer hack her way into finding her hidden original code. It's a pretty recent movie. Okay, looks like that's everybody for now. Yeah, I think the other two were a little too slow, but fine. So, Sean, Free Guy. Free Guy is correct. Pretty recent movie. So, which category should we do next? Hacker Pop Culture 400. Okay. Jack, I remember there might have been an issue. Maybe just wait like a few seconds more before resetting, because I think that might have been an issue when we were testing it. I don't remember though. But let's see Hacker Pop Culture. Wait, we already did 4. Yeah, we already did 400. Do you want 300 or a different one? 300, okay. So let's go 300. Jack Bauer relies on the trusted assistance of this analyst to be his right hand at the CTU. Jack Bauer. Okay, anyone else want to guess? No such thing as a bad guess. Okay, Sean, which one is it? Chloe O'Brien. I haven't watched the show, but I think that's correct. Okay, Chloe O'Brien, that's correct. Nice. So, Sean, which one would you like to do next? Hacker Pop Culture for 200. Okay, let's do it. This 1995 anime and 2017 film about a cyborg agent fighting a villain who hacks into the minds of cyborg-human hybrid. Anyone have any guesses? Anyone have any guesses? Okay, I think the timer might have ran out, but I'll just go down the list if Jess doesn't get it. So Jess, what do you think it is? Ghost in the Shell. I think that's correct, yes. Nice. So 200 points for Jess. And which one would you like next? Which category, which points? Global surveillance for 100. Let's see it. So this is the precursor to what we know as the internet was established in 1969. What is it? Okay, everyone feel free to buzz. Okay, Sean, what is that? ARPANET. That is correct. Yes, ARPANET. Nice. So that is for 100. Whistleblowers for 400. Let's see it. So this whistleblower was a former U.S. soldier responsible for the biggest leak in U.S. military history, revealing the U.S. military's conduct in Iraq and Afghanistan from 2004 to 2009. How was it both full? It's fine. Okay. Everyone feel free to guess. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about hogging the points or anything. Espen. Sean, what do you think it is? Who is it? Chelsea Elizabeth Manning. Pretty sure that's correct. Yes, Chelsea Manning. Close enough. That was for 400? Yeah. So I'll do a little... You're related? That's kind of cool. How are you related? Oh. That's crazy. Okay, here's an update on the points. Connor's still sitting high with 2,000. Sean is 1,400, and pretty good point totals for everybody else. Miscellaneous for 400. Let's see it. And that might be our last question. What mammals can fly? Buzz, 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 like a bee. The answer is a bee, though. Okay, we got people buzzing. Okay, I think I ran out of time. Unfortunately, I don't think I can do that, but it'll make you a lot closer. Okay, you are the guesser, I guess. So what do you think it is? Put money right now, or the bat? That is correct. Bats are mammals. Oh, I think we just went to the next page by accident. Where's the link a little messed up? Bats. Okay, yeah, I was just click to the next one. Nice. So it's now time for our break, but that leaves us at Connor 2,000, Sean 1,800, Mason 800, Abdul Mo have 400, Chris has 500, and Jess has 700. Fortunately, we're out of time. We'll hopefully do this again soon. It seemed like a lot of people had fun.
Thank you, everybody. Great participation for that one. So we'll be taking a 5-minute break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Connor as well as the rest of last year's CTF team, hopefully, to take a deeper dive into MonkeyCTF. I'll be posting the CCR form. The key is on screen, so go ahead and fill it out if you want. By the way, this will be counting for this current year, so if you didn't hit the hours when Nash sent out those emails, this can help. All right, so welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed your break. Now we're going to be getting into our guest speaker portion of the night. And this will be a retrospective on the making of MonkeyCTF, a bit on that, and then a walkthrough on some of the various challenges from that CTF. So here we got Connor, former CTF coordinator, current certified binary reverser from what I hear at Trend Micro. I invite you to the air quote stage. Go ahead.
Hello. Well, yes. So I mean that basically sums me up. So as our fearless president said here, I worked with the CTF team this year. For those of you who don't know me, I was the CTF coordinator. So I did a lot of the logistical stuff at the beginning of the event. So I was responsible for organizing sponsorships with people, kind of planning out what the event would look like. And, actually at the beginning of the event, back when we started in April maybe of, 2021, I guess, we were tentatively hoping it was going to be in person, so we were planning a lot of stuff for that. But I mean, of course, as you guys know, when we got around the December period when Omicron came around, we unfortunately had to move it to in person. Yeah, so I think that I have talked about kind of the building stuff of the CTF, or like what we went into a few times in the past at like other meetings. So I don't want to go through that too much this time, because I think most people have already heard it. So I am just going to go through like a few of the challenges, and I'm going to try to show you guys how you might be able to work on them, like how you would view it as an outsider, and then also, you know, if you go into a blind, the methodologies you can use, and how you can identify what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, so I will share my screen here. I don't know if somebody else might need to record me or not. Am I okay?
I think you're good now.
Cool. Okay. So I have a few different challenges. I'm gonna go through them and we'll just see how long it takes. So yeah. So unfortunately the website for the CTF is no longer up, so I'm just gonna have to quickly like go through our GitHub a little bit, but we do have the instructions still. So first challenge I'm going to go through is this one. It's called Banana Overflow. So as you might be able to tell from the title, this is a buffer overflow question. So if my banana bucket only holds 50 bananas, what happens when I put in 51? What could ever happen? I wonder if we could find out somehow. So there's a lot of stuff in here that you don't need to worry about. I'm just going to run the program. So when the program gets run, you know, it just prints this simple line. Maybe we can type some stuff in. Okay, and nothing really happened. So in the player files, so this is the stuff that the players would have been able to see during the CTF if you guys participated. You actually would have been given access to this file. This is something you could have viewed. So as you can see, this is obviously a C source code file. No, there's not much in it. There's a main function, and then there's a you better not hack me and take my banana function. And inside here, it opens a flag.txt file, it reads from it, and then it puts something out. Very simple. So then in here, you know, it's very straightforward as well. There's a couple of, you know, rudimentary, just like sanitization stuff that goes on. We have a character, please don't jump, and then it uses gets. So if you have any familiarity with binary exploitation or C stuff at all, you will, anytime you see gets, you know that this is probably going to be some sort of buffer overflow thing. This function is very bad. If you read the manual for gets, it will literally say, don't use this function. It's very, very bad. There's a lot of bad stuff that can happen with it. So for those of you who aren't familiar with buffer overflow, the basic premise that's going on here is we have this character or string array, character array, whatever you want to call it. It's essentially just a string is the easiest way to think about it. That's declared as being able to hold 32 characters. In here, in this gets function, it's going to read input into here, but the problem here is what happens if a user were to type in more than 32 characters. So normally what's supposed to happen is you would use something safe, like you use fgets, you'd specify that you only want to read through 32 characters because your string only has 32 characters that it can hold. But with gets, it will just keep on reading and reading and reading, you know, until it encounters a new line or a null byte. That's just how the gets function works. So what happens if we put in more than 32, right? That's obviously seems like something that would probably be a problem. So let's see here. If I just try to hold down A for a long time. So I've got a segmentation fault. So if you're not familiar with a segmentation fault, this usually means something in memory has went wrong. You'll see this sometimes if you try to access like an array out of its index. So if you declare something to be 30 characters long and you try to access the 31st or the 0, it's really common that you run into this if you're doing for loops and you have your index off by a little bit. But this also, I mean, this can mean a lot of things. So something that we can do, and something that I would highly recommend you look into after this, is something called GDB. So GDB is a debugger, which allows you to trace the execution of a program. So I'm going to run GDB with this. Your GDB will just be regular. This -PEDA here, this is an extension I installed. That's a Python exploit development assistant helper. You don't need it. It's just something I use because it's a little bit nice. So I'm going to type run here, and then let's try to type in some more characters. So it's gonna crash. And I mean, I know this this probably looks a little confusing. There's a lot of stuff going on. You don't really need to worry about most of this. So info frame here, this is going to show me a lot of what are called registers. So this is another thing that I really want to go through at some point, and I actually want to do a kind of like beginner or intro to binary exploitation or reverse engineering talk at some point, and go into this stuff a little bit more in depth. I am going to go through a little bit because some of this stuff it would take a very long time to explain this right down to the fundamentals. Well, you know, how registers and all that kind of stuff work. But so if you see in here this thing called saved rip, and then we have 0x616161616161. If you're familiar with ASCII and hex code at all, you'll actually know that 61 in hex is the lowercase a that I was spamming here. So on the ASCII table, 61 is equivalent to an A. So that means this saved RIP is being filled with 61616161, which is what we were typing in. So if you go on Google and you were to type in what is saved rip, EIP, rip register, what is this? Let's see. This seems important. Okay, this one is long, but you could probably go through and find like an explanation. Essentially, with C code and assembly code, there's something called the instruction pointer. So this is very, very important, and it's kind of the fundamental idea behind most exploitation and buffer overflow style things. Anytime the assembly code encounters a return instruction, it will check what the memory address is of the instruction pointer, and then it will go to that memory location. So for example, if you have something like a function, and in a function, normally in your C code, you would call a function, it would go to another function. When it's supposed to go back to where it was originally, it has to have stored somewhere in memory where it's supposed to go back to. So when it called the function, it would store that memory address in the instruction pointer. It does, whatever you want your function to do. It encounters the return and, it knows, okay, I need to go back here, checks the address, and it goes back. No problem. Except there is a problem if we're using something like this. The problem that we're going to run into, and I mean, I can try to visualize this a little bit. I'm very bad at drawing, but memory layout on, see if I can, with the computer, I'm sure you're all kind of familiar with the concept of the stack. The stack that's going on the back end of anytime stuff is being run. This is very important with C. So somewhere on the stack, let's just say, oh, so bad, I'm going to use this tool. Somewhere in the stack, there's going to be this, and this is going to be the RIP. This is the instruction pointer. So this is saved somewhere. And then below this, maybe there is, the stuff that it takes in as user input, or like a local variable. So if I have like a string array, it's going to be just below this on the stack in memory. So string array. And there might be various stuff, other things. There could be other variables. Everything really is going to be on here. So we allocated 32 bytes for our string when we saw that code, remember? So in here, this is 32. So what happens if we put in more than 32? It has to just go onto the stack, right? So it will just go onto the next part. So if the string array on the stack is right beside the instruction pointer, the string array is 32 bytes, the 33rd is going to be put right here. 34th is going to be put here. The 35th here, 36, 37, 38. You get the gist. Depends exactly. So with this one, it's 64-bit, so this is going to be 8. If it's 32-bit, it's 4 numbers. That's not a super big deal. But so what does this mean? What can we do with that? Well, and this essentially means that if we are able to overwrite this, we can make the computer hop anywhere in memory that we want to. If we can, arbitrarily put something onto the instruction pointer, we can do anything we want in the computer's memory. So in this code, you can see that there's this gets please don't jump, and then if 1 equals 2, so obviously will never become true, it runs this function. We know if this function gets run, it prints the flag. But normally, it doesn't get run. So because we're able to overwrite the instruction pointer, maybe something we can do is we can try to learn what the memory address or memory location is of this function, and then put that onto the instruction pointer. And then it'll go to this, because normally, you know, we're never going to encounter it because of this if statement. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this to try to figure out what the memory address is exactly. I'm going to use object dump. Object dump. Whoops, I forgot a flag here. Got my -d. So this is just going to print out all the memory locations inside of our assembly file here, because once your C code has been compiled, it gets compiled into assembly, right? That's C is a compiled language. So this is also really long. It's very confusing. This looks super confusing. You know what? You don't need to understand it really. But we see here that this is the function, and right beside it, this is the memory location of the function. So this is the memory location that we want to put onto the instruction pointer to be able to hop to. That's our goal right now. So let's go back to GDB. So now what we need to figure out, you might think normally, you know, it's 32, and with this example we showed here, you know, so the string is 32. Oh, so at the 33rd, we're going to immediately start writing out an RIP onto the instruction pointer. Sometimes that's the case. It usually isn't. There's usually more stuff. I drew it like this just to make it a little bit more clear. There could be stuff in between these, and there typically will be. So the next step is you need to figure out what the buffer size is. You know, this is called a buffer overflow. What the buffer size is to get from this point to this point. So there's actually a very easy way to do this. I'm going to use a tool called pattern create. This is something that's installed in Metasploit. You can use Metasploit. It also comes in this this GDB thing here, which is why I like using it. Regular GDB I don't think has this, but it's not a very big deal. So I'm gonna run. I'm gonna enter this pattern that was just created here. Okay, we had a sig, and I'm going to look at the RIP again. Okay, so now we got a different value here. So this is, you know, once again, this is in hex. So the next step would be we need to just see what this is. So let's do hex to ASCII. Okay, so 41, 41, 30, 41, 41. Actually, whoops. 41, 41, 30, 41, 46, 41, 41. And so something you'll actually notice here is that I did this backwards. I didn't do it in the way, because on the stack, everything is reversed, right? Because it's a stack, that's just how stacks work. Everything goes on the opposite way from how we read it. Now we can use something called pattern offset. Whoops, I forgot to press convert. And forgot to delete this. Okay, so this is what was contained in our saved RIP, pattern offset. So this is found at offset 40. So I'm going to go through this again just so you guys understand it a little bit better. So we created a pattern of 100 characters that we then put onto the stack, or we entered into the program. And then once it crashed, we checked what value was in RIP. We know that this is the value that was put onto the instruction pointer, and this is what we want to overwrite. So now we can go back to this pattern and we can just see where this showed up, you know, what position this showed up. And I mean, you could do it manually. It's obviously much easier to use the pattern offset tool. So we would go and we'd look in here and we'd find AA00. So it's right here. You can see this is the same thing. And this is the 40th character. Okay, and just as an aside, if any of you have a question at some point, please feel free to unmic or type in the chat, and I'll stop to answer. Or like if anything's confusing, I know that stuff buffer overflows, they're a very cool topic. I know it can be a little bit daunting at first because there's a lot of new tools or terms and all that kind of stuff, but it is a really, really cool topic, and I hope that you guys will be able to gain something from this. But please feel free to interrupt or ask questions if you need. Okay, so what do we have now? We have the buffer value, so we know the size we need to put on to be able to overwrite onto RIP, and we know the memory location of what we want to put on RIP. And really at this point, because this is a very example, that's actually all we need. We don't need anything else. Oops. Oh, I don't know what just happened. Okay, so let's. I already have the solution typed out here, but I'm going to walk you guys through and just explain what this is. So there's a very, very good library I would recommend you use if you're interested in this kind of stuff called Pwn Tools. It's really helpful. It makes doing stuff like this a lot easier. You don't have to, for example, like with this, we actually, technically, we didn't even need to go
I
in
don't think we can see your screen.
Oh, did I stop? Shoot. Okay, sorry. Thank you. Can you see now?
Yes. Yeah, all good.
My bad. Okay, I'll give people a few seconds to reopen. Okay, so in this file here, so technically, with this Pwn Tools library, we didn't actually need to go in and find that memory location. I did it just to show you because I think it's a good thing to understand. But it gives you the option to do this where you can just type in, you can load in an executable file, which is what we were using, that executable file. And then you set it as a process. And then in here, this line, this is equivalently, it's just going to grab that memory address that we just found earlier. And it's going to put it in here. So this P64 means pack as 64-bit. When you're sending stuff through some sort of connection like this, because the address that it's going to get is, we saw all the way up here. So this is what it's going to print, but you can't actually send this directly, just the way it is. The computer's not going to interpret it properly. You need to convert it into hex codes and into 64-bit because that's just how like the stack will work. So you would actually have to convert it into something that looked like this, where you put /x. So this backwards x specifies you're doing a hex byte. So, and because it's on a stack, it's backwards once again. So it would be /x f6. It's right here. /x 11 /x 40, and then it'd be /x 00 5 times. So this is because it's 64-bit. You can see that there's 8 bytes. I'll click here just to visualize. So you can see here there's 8 bytes here. A byte is two characters. If it's a 32-bit system, there would only be 4. Or if it's a 32-bit executable. So I'm gonna just delete this here. And you can see here, this is just our buffer size. So this is A's that we're just, it could be anything. This could be B, it could be C. We picked A arbitrarily. It's just what people like to use. It's kind of, the standard thing. So basically we're doing 40 A's and then we're just sending because we know at that point we're going to be able to put the address that we want to put onto RIP, the instruction pointer, and then it's going to hop to it. That's basically it. We don't even need this print line. This print line is just like a debugger thing. Like it's nice to see if you're having problems, you can see what it's printing out properly. And let's run this and see what happens. Hopefully it works. Okay. Solution.py. Whoa, it printed something. I hope that was the right flag. Flag.txt. Excellent. So that's basically, this is a very basic example of how buffer overflow stuff works. It can get much more complicated than this. Sometimes this one was kind of made to be a little bit more friendly because it gives you a very easy memory location to jump to. All you have to do is overwrite the instruction pointer. It can get much, much, much more in depth. I hope that wasn't, I hope I didn't go too fast on that. I know that it can be a little bit overwhelming or daunting as a beginner. I didn't want to spend the whole time I could probably talk about buffer overflow or just like this specific example in depth for like a whole talk, but I'm going to do that sometime in the fall. I do really want to do a intro like binary exploitation or reverse engineering thing if people would be interested in that. But yeah, so there was another one that was pretty similar to this. There was just a little bit more to it. So that is one challenge. Yes, Joel, you have a question? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, awesome. Okay, good to hear. For sure, yeah. If people would be interested in that, please let me know. I would definitely. I would really like to do that kind of stuff. I think it's a field that we don't really go into it a lot at Sheridan, especially in the first few years. It's kind of stuff that you have to learn on your own for the most part, which, yeah, as I've said, it can be pretty overwhelming. It can be a little bit confusing. And there's stuff where it's hard to find the right tools or the right methodologies to go about it. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Next one here is, this is a yeah, that's usually how it goes. I spent long time messing with very, the beginner level ones, and it can get quite annoying. Cool. So let's do this next one. I'm gonna open this just to show you guys the instructions. Instructions. Not having any money you can use here is starting to get pretty annoying. Fortunately, you came across what looks like an ATM machine. Maybe there's some way you can get some currency after all. Okay, interesting. So this one, there was no source code given. It was just this instruction, and then you had to connect to a netcat connection. I don't have the netcat setup, so I'm just going to run it locally. So, we can see here, it's just a basic little ATM kind of thing. You can deposit, you can withdraw. Let's try to see. 100. Cool, that's my balance. I have 105. Can I withdraw? What's my balance now? Oh, wonderful. Oh, interesting. The withdraw didn't work. I tried to withdraw 100, but it's only 105. That's very interesting. So typically, something that I'd recommend when you come across these challenges that don't have any, you don't have access to source code or anything like that kind of stuff, try to just like crash the program or just try to put in unexpected inputs. That's almost always the best way to start. It's a good way to determine if, maybe it's a buffer overflow challenge, maybe it's some sort of pwning one, maybe, whatever it could be. So I don't know, let's just type in a whole bunch of those. Okay, so that just gave me a crash. What happens if I type in a different letter? If I type in R? Interesting. So this gave me a name error. Name R is not defined. So we got an error, and typically this is something that would have come through in the netcat. If you're ever making stuff like this, you don't want to send this error back to the user if they're connecting to it locally. This is a pretty big thing with security, that you don't want to give them verbose error messages that give away too much detail about what you made. So, next step would be, let's Google this. What is name error, name not defined? So Python name error. Name is not, what does this mean? Name error is raised when we try to use the variable or function name, which is not valid. A function name that is not valid. That's interesting. What could that mean? Anybody have ideas? Anybody know what that could mean? What's going on here? Any guesses?
Are the letters themselves functions?
Maybe. Yeah. So what could be going on in the backend if it's saying that a function name is not valid when I typed in T, or oh sorry, that's actually a valid one. I type in U. And it's saying name U is not defined as a function. So this means that it's actually trying to execute what I typed in as a function. That's what it's trying to do on the backend. And this is something that you will also learn that is not good to do. These kinds of functions, or executing user input is very, very bad. You don't want to do this kind of stuff. But of course, this is a beginner-friendly CTF that we're trying to get people introduced to these topics. So it's trying to execute what the user types in as code, as a function. Very bad. What can we do with that? I don't know. I mean, maybe we can try to like get it to spawn a shell. Maybe we can try to get it to print something. Is there like if there's a flag.txt on the server, could we get it to print a flag back to us? Maybe, but how can we do that with just from like stuff we type in? Because we can't execute like our own arbitrary Python code, but we can execute like a function that exists. So typically, you know, with something like this, if it's running exec, which is this is just something that's like known is the function that would do this would be exec. You would have to it would have to have certain imports, and in Python, there's something you can actually do that's called os.system. So this lets you run system commands. So this is a function from the OS module that runs a system command. So maybe we could try to do os.system ls. OS is not defined. Okay, maybe we need to do it in lowercase. Interesting. We were able to execute ls, and look, there's a flag.txt. And you know, I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can solve it now. You can do cat flag.txt. I think the fun way that I always like to do it is to spawn a shell, which is /bin/sh. Now we can ls. I just spawned a shell on my own local machine that I already have a shell on, and now I can do whatever I want. Ooh, cat flag.txt. Don't execute unsanitized input. Big tip. Okay, it's all right, whatever. I was gonna close this terminal unless it's plugged. But yes, and that is something you will all, if you haven't learned that yet, this is the #1 rule of like all of security, especially if you're interested in, you know, pen testing or application security, product security, any of this stuff. Don't execute unsanitized input. This is like the root cause of everything basically. If this didn't happen, a lot of people, like if developers would not execute unsanitized input, a lot of security people would be out of jobs, because that's the biggest problem in the industry. But it's good for us because we get to stay employed. So who cares? Close this. Okay, next one, I'm going to show you guys a web challenge. So this is a SQL injection challenge. I'm not going to go too much into SQL, like how SQL injection works at like a very low level. I'm just going to kind of assume that you guys are familiar with the basic premise of what SQL injection is. So I'm just starting the website right now because it's obviously down. I have to host it locally. I'm going to open up the website here. Okay. Now let's check the player files. Okay, so in the player files, there's an instructions.txt. What's it say? You think we fixed the login screen bug you found earlier, but now we've implemented a registration function. I'm pretty sure it's secure, and there's no way for them to get big banana access. Okay. There's also this db.sql. So this is an SQL file. Interesting. So creating users table, and there's a comment here that says to do actually run these scripts and add the admin user, lol. So with this is something that can be kind of common for like a web challenge. If you're trying to give the participants like a little bit of a nudge in the right way, it gives you a little bit of info about what the back end of the system looks like. Because, you know, with this, of course, you can't actually see the source code of the website at all. You can't see the Python backend or anything like that. You know, this obviously gives you a good idea. This is probably an SQL injection challenge. You were given a db.sql thing. And this here is signifying that, you know, it's probably not one where you need to, you know, find out like the admin password or something like that. It's saying here that there's actually not an admin created yet. But it does give us a bit of an idea about what this looks like. So we know in the database, there's a username, there's a password, and there's a privilege level. We can see here that hypothetically the admin, if there was one, the admins should have a privilege level of 10, and the regular users, or not admin user, would have a privilege level of 1. Okay, so that's good info to have. So you could try to do stuff on this page. It does also say in the instructions that that they've implemented a registration function, so it's probably a good guess that there's some sort of error at the registration page. So, unfortunately, as you can see, we can't actually we can't select our privilege level, unfortunately. That would be cool, but and it looks like my CSS is broken here. I'm not sure what's going on, but that's fine. So I'm just gonna try to make a user, if I can spell my name. I'm gonna make a Connor test. Okay. Connor test. Interesting. Maybe we can inspect element. Maybe there's like a cookie, something like that. Okay, so there's a session cookie, but probably not going to be able to do anything with that. It doesn't really look like there's anything here. I can click on this. And there's just some pictures. Okay, so I can log out. So because this is a SQL injection challenge, we have to kind of think about what we might be able to do, like where we can inject. If we're thinking that this login page is not injectable, because the challenge has told us that it's probably at the registration page, what can we do here to change our privilege level? So if we know on the back end, probably the Python code is executing based on user input. It's going to take maybe it'll say insert into users username, from what it grabbed from the website, password. Maybe there's some sort of way that it's specifying if it's an admin or if it's not an admin. But at the same time, if we're guessing that maybe if this page is injectable, maybe we can just put it in ourselves. Like if on the back end, maybe it's defaulting to, if it's defaulting on the registration page, this is an educated guess that you'd have to make, which you do sometimes have to do with SQL injection things. We do have some evidence here to guess what it looks like. We're assuming that probably the default is that it would look like this. It's probably not going to look like this, of course. That wouldn't make sense to let everybody register as an admin. So we're assuming this is probably what it looks like on the back end. So what can we do with that if we can control the user input? Maybe we could specify, like in the username, we could type in Connor test, and we could do our little injection here. So then we could put in comma space. What do we want our password to be? Connor password, comma, and then maybe we can specify the privilege level. Oh, okay. Maybe we could just specify the privilege level ourselves. So now let's copy paste this and just put it over so you can visually see what this would look like. So if we were to type this in, if we were to type this in to the username page, this is what the query would now look like. So you can see here, it's making a username with Connor test, Connor password. It's setting the privilege level still, and then it's actually commenting out the stuff on the back end, the other stuff that's going on. So it's commenting out this part where it's making it as a privilege level of 1. And it's making it privilege level 10 on our own. So we can actually we should be able to put whatever we want into password here, because our password value is going to get commented out anyway. You could just put if the password is also injectable, you could probably just put it in here. Doesn't really matter. Try to log in. What was our password? Connor password, sign in. Using not found. Okay, did I type that in wrong? All right, let's try that again. I think I forgot what my username was. Connor test. Okay. User not found. Interesting. What could be going on here that's causing this? Anybody got any ideas? The starting quotation. So the starting quotation is going to be there no matter what. Like on the back end, the code is probably going to look like oops, username. So this is what the code is going to look like on the back end. So we know that we probably can only, what's it called? We can't do anything to this. This starting quotation is going to be here no matter what. We can start typing from here after. Okay, so another thing we could try, maybe it's using single quotes on the back end instead of double quotes. It's possible, you know, sometimes with Python or, you know, different developers, they do that kind of stuff. So let's try that. So that would be honor password n dash dash. Let's see if this works. Oops. Ah, yeah, you're right. I'm missing a bracket. Good call. Whoops, that's the registration page. Whoa, and would you look at that? MonkeyCTF, account creation injection. The flag got printed because our privilege level is now admin. So, I mean, there was a little bit of the trick there with in the db.sql, it's using double quotes, but in the actual backend, it's using single quotes because you can't technically use whichever you want. That's just, it's kind of the thing with SQL. It's part of the reason why some people don't like it. I know Blake is not a big fan of SQL injection. There's a lot of stuff that you just kind of have to make educated guesses on because a lot of the time you can't actually see, you know, the output of the query, or you have no idea what the query even looks like on the back end. You know, very frequently you probably would never actually get access to this info. You shouldn't, in reality, you should never know what this query looks like. That's absurd that a developer would leak that info to you. So you just have to make the best guesses based off the returns or based off the stuff that you see happening. There is a really, really cool topic called blind SQL injection. I'm not going to go over it right now because it does take a little bit of time to explain and walk through. But if anybody's interested in that stuff, and if anybody's interested in SQL injection or web security at all, I cannot recommend Portswigger Web Security enough. That website is absolutely amazing. They do a really, really good job of explaining everything from like the ground up. You don't need any understanding of anything. And they show you how to use Burp Suite, which is, you know, it's like the gold standard of doing stuff with web security or web pen testing. It is virtually a required tool if you're going to be doing anything like that. You definitely need to know how to use it. Cannot recommend it enough. And I know most people who know me have heard me say that a million times, so I'm sorry if you had to hear it again. But it really just is that good. It's such an amazing tool. Okay, so this last one I'm going to show you is a little bit more confusing. This is one that only one team managed to solve. They actually solved it in like the first 30 minutes. I couldn't believe it because I was worried that nobody was going to solve this one, and John and I actually made it specifically we were hoping that it was going to be the hardest one, which it did end up being, but we were hoping that nobody was going to solve it. I almost thought that I like did something wrong and I left like a loophole or something that they figured out, but no, I guess for those of you who don't know, the team that won the CTF was this team from Waterloo, and one of the guys on it is some like he's like 18, he's in first year, but he's went to like world championships of CTFs, you know, while he's in high school. He's an absolute genius, and their team, they just came in and absolutely annihilated the competition, which is really cool to see. And I mean, it's awesome that we had them. It's very interesting. Okay, so let's go to the player files. So instructions. So this is a pretty long instruction. A lot of this instruction is regarding, the challenge was originally set up as an SSH where you have to connect to a shell. And so it was a war game style where everybody is actually connected to the same shell. So it means that you could see people's files and that kind of stuff, like leftovers. So you had to be sneaky, or you might accidentally leave, your solution, and then somebody could just run your solution and they could get the flag, right? But so obviously we don't have the SSH set up anymore. When we did the competition, we only gave them the binary file. We didn't even give them the C source code because I wanted to be extra mean. I'm going to walk you guys through the C source code because it would take a really long time to go through the binary itself. I think that'd probably be a little too confusing. So challenge.c. Okay. So this is kind of long. Let's just try to run the program first. Let's see what happens. /a.out. What would you like to do? Help. Okay, I can add, multiply. I have to type in a to multiply a to e to exit. Okay, let's add 100. 100 plus 100 minus 1 equals 199. Okay, that's a fun tip. Let's try to subtract. Can I have a number? 99. What would you like to do? Okay, let's try again. What happens if I type in like ASD? Okay, so it didn't crash this time. So, we're going to try to kind of use the same methodology we used last time. Maybe this is a buffer overflow. Maybe, we have to find some sort of crashing thing to it. Let's just hold down A for a really long time and see what happens. This is a classic way to go about buffer overflows or detecting them. If you hit a seg fault, maybe it's okay. So that's interesting. It ran it a few times. Didn't hit a seg fault, so probably is not a buffer overflow. If this is what we're seeing. Maybe what if we try to do like, what if we try to add like a negative value? What happens? Okay, so it actually just didn't even read the negative value. Interesting. Okay, so I mean, we weren't really able to gain much from that other than probably not a buffer overflow. It doesn't seem like we can execute stuff. It didn't give us an error. So the next step would be to actually just go in and look at the source code, even though this does look a little daunting. So we have a main, we have a couple functions. We have sig handler, add hist, sig handler. So these should immediately stick out as important. I know for some of you, you probably aren't familiar with how signals work in C. So signals are a built-in thing with C that you can specify if a certain item or something happens, your function will immediately get called. So like for here, for example, or I'll actually explain this one. This, for example, this signal sig FPE. So this is the code for a signal of a floating point error. So floating point error, you guys are probably familiar with. That's like a divide by 0, and anything along those kinds of line. So if a floating point error occurs at any point during runtime, this sig handler 2 function is going to be immediately called. Okay, that's not bad. That's not too bad. That seems relatively straightforward. So what's going on in here? Interesting. So there's another signal in here. So there's a signal. So this is okay. So this is specifying what's going on. So there's a set EUID. This is I'll go over this in a little bit. Maybe this is something you'd want to Google actually if you're not familiar with it. So it's int logging and resetting history. Okay, max equals hist size. There's a nested array. There's a max. It's going through. It's doing it a lot of times. So it's 100,000 times for every every time of max. It seems like it's probably going to be run a lot. That's a very big thing. So it sets an EUID and it sets an EUID once it's done. Okay, interesting. So let's go on Google. Let's see. What does set EUID do? Set EUID. Sets the effective user ID. Okay, set effective user or group ID. Interesting. So EUID. What does get EUID? Does this get the effective user ID? Returns the real user ID of calling process. Okay. And what does get UID? Get UID. Maybe we could compare them. VS get UID. We see that these two things are here. What is the difference between get UID and get EUID? Effective EUID is checked when you do something that requires special access, such as reading or writing a file. That's interesting. So, I mean, we can see in here there's a flag.txt. We know we probably want to get here. This seems like the place we want to get to, if it's writing a flag.txt. Okay, how can we get here? There's this sig handler, there's sig st stop, sig st stop. Let's try to Google this. What is sig t stop? It's an interactive stop signal, handled and ignored. Okay, so this is something that I'm just going to quickly explain for the sake of time, but a sig st stop is a signal that's sent through when you send a stop or like a pause. So if you press Control Z while you're running a process, like right now, I press, whoops, okay, basically when you press Control Z, you can actually stop or pause a process and it will hide it and you can actually come back to it later. So because the SSH shell is not set up properly, when I pressed Control Z here, it actually did just print the flag. With the way it was set up on the server, you needed admin access. I can't actually set that up right now. I'm just going to kind of explain how it did work on the back end, how it's supposed to work. Basically, this file, the flag.txt, it required you to have admin access to be able to read it. And what this is doing is that it's setting the process ID of what's going on right now to be non-admin while the program is running. And then this line here, it's just temporarily setting it to be admin, just in this little time window. So it sets it to be admin, and then it sets it back again to be normal. When we were developing it, the way that we were trying to think about it is like, imagine if when like an error occurs, perhaps like, the admins would want somebody to like, they want like a log of what happened. So imagine that it would be like writing files. I didn't want to write a whole bunch of files to the server because that would be ridiculous. So the way that we tried to, but that would also take a really long time. So the way we tried to simulate that is by just creating like an artificial time thing of just going through 100,000 times. So what is max? How does max get increased? Let's see. Where does this get called? What's max? Hist size. Where's hist size? Hist size is up here. Does hist size get increased somewhere? Hist size. Add hist. Oops. Add hist. Okay. Okay, so this looks like basically anytime there's add hist, add hist, add hist, add hist. Okay, so basically anytime the user goes through and they do an add, they do a subtract, they do a multiply, it just adds one thing to the history. And it goes up and up and up. It looks like there's a max size of 10,000 for hist size. We can see that here. This is define hist size, history, hist size. So I am running out of time here, so I'm kind of gonna I'll speed through the last little bit. But essentially, what you can do with this is something that's called a race condition. So a race condition is when you try to make something with the program execute before like a security mechanism or something else goes on. So with this, maybe something we can do is if we try to fill up the history size to a really high amount, what if we try to make the history size 10,000 or so? And then while this is being run, maybe this will take a long time to be run, right? Because we know that during this for loop, it's currently, the process currently has admin rights. And we know that we need admin rights to read the flag.txt. We know that this sig handler, the sig st stop, happens when we press Control Z. So we need to press Control Z while the process has admin rights. But normally, because this is C code, C is very fast. This is going to happen really quickly. But what if we just fill it like really with a whole fuck ton of values, like 10,000? Maybe it'll take like a couple seconds to go. So the way the actual intended solution for this, I'll show you the test.txt. So this is just a really long file that is something you can pipe in where it goes through, it says add, and then it sends in a 5, it sends add, and it sends in a 5. And then and does that 20,000 times to make the history size full at 10,000 values. And this last one triggers a floating point error just from here. So this is because it's going to try to divide by 0. And then by triggering a floating point error, it's going to come to this, It's going to try to run this for loop, and hopefully it's going to take a little bit of time. And in that little window, we have to press Control Z. That's the goal of our thing. So let's a.out. Okay, so let's see what's going on. Okay, so that took, how long was that? A second and a half, 2 seconds. So what happens if you press Control Z in that little time window? You will have admin access between when it says logging whoops. A.out. So between when this comes up and when it says exiting, only in that window do you have admin access. And if you didn't do all this stuff where you're sending it, it would be extremely quick, because C code is extremely quick. So the only way you can do this is by artificially increasing the length that this code takes to run. So you just have that little time to press your Control Z and to print the flag. It was I cannot take full credit for this challenge. John and I spent a while building this one. I think it's a really cool topic. Funnily, I didn't actually know what a race condition was before we made this challenge. We were just we wanted to do something with signals. We spent like 10 hours trying to do this stuff, and then we tried to figure out like a good way to. Originally, we had it where you just had to like press Control C and that would print the flag, but we also didn't want people to like do that on accident, and they would just get the flag by luck. People press Control C all the time. So we did a bit of iteration, and at one point we actually had it set up where it was a netcat challenge, and challenge was working fine locally. We set it up on the netcat. It's not working anymore. I couldn't figure it out. I was getting really frustrated. And this is like the night before the CTF was going on. This was a really last minute challenge. And then it's very silly, but we realized that when you press Control C, when you're connected to a netcat, it doesn't send that Control C to the program. It sends it to netcat, and it just closes the netcat connection. So I'm not actually sending it to the program at all. I'm just sending it to netcat. So something like this, it doesn't actually work with a netcat connection, which is why we ended up doing an SSH one, because with SSH, you can actually press Control C. It won't close your SSH. It'll send that through the SSH to the program. How do I think they solved it so fast? So they were the ones that actually told me that it was a race condition, coincidentally. And then I did Googling and I found out, what the topic was. I know that this challenge seems very complicated and very complex, but if you are familiar with these terms, like if you were familiar with these, you would look at this and you say, why would you possibly do this? This doesn't make any sense to just randomly set it to be admin. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you ever do that? And it would immediately be a red flag. And maybe this is something you can take with you in the future. If you see this, now you're going to know this is probably bad, and you should probably do some investigating. Yeah, I was very surprised that they solved this fast, and that's what I was saying. I was pretty sure that I had accidentally, I thought that I might have fucked up the admin permissions and that they could just like read the flag.txt file or something. But no, he said, like, he talked to me about how he did it. He did it the exact way that he was supposed to. No, they didn't have access to the source code. They only had access to the binary. But I mean, if you have access, I don't know what it would have looked like if you open it up in like IDA Pro or Ghidra, where you can see there's some reverse engineering applications where it will try to turn assembly code into pseudo C code. It won't reconstruct it exactly, but it'll give you a much better idea. I assume it probably would have been able to reconstruct this bit properly, and the signal stuff. Once again, it's just an experience thing, and as I say all the time with CTFs, I don't think that CTFs are like a great indication of intelligence or how good you are going to be at your job. It's all just experience. Like it's all just having experience of having went through CTFs, because they all have the same challenges. You encounter the same things, and then when you do it the next time in the next CTF, you're going to be familiar with it, and when you see it, you can solve it much, much faster. And that's really just how this one probably went for them. They knew what signals were. They knew that this set EUID stuff didn't make any sense. Why would you do that? And I mean, I get they knew what race conditions were. They had all the puzzle pieces that I didn't even have, and They solved it. But I mean, they were also a very, very talented team. They got first by a wide margin, and they're all very smart people. Yeah, so I mean that's gonna conclude it for my challenges. I hope that wasn't too much or too confusing. I hope I didn't go through it too quickly or anything like that. If any of you have questions about anything, you know, I'm open. And something else I will just mention really quick, if any of you are looking for co-ops for your fall term, Trend Micro, the company I'm working at right now, is just posted their fall internships for vulnerability research team. It's a really, really cool team. If you're interested in offensive stuff or, you know, reverse engineering, binary exploit stuff, it's a really, really cool team. I've really enjoyed it so far. I'm learning a lot. And they're also going to be doing this every single term for forever, for the foreseeable future. That'll include, you know, winter, summer, next fall, everything. And if any of you have questions about that, you know, you can always send me a message too. Yeah, that's gonna conclude it for me.
Thank you, Connor. Great talk. Thank you again for stepping in to help out there. As always, this recording will be on YouTube. So if you ever want to go back and take a look at some of the stuff Connor was talking about and try it out on your own end, perhaps, that's always an option. So that will conclude tonight's session. And thank you, everybody, for coming out. Thank you for your participation. Hopefully, we'll see y'all at June 30th. I'll be posting an event survey where you can let us know how you felt about the session. But aside from that, have a good night.